Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the members of the super ancient legendary weather trio. The water-type Pokemon Kyogre, the Sea Basin Pokémon, the ground-type Pokemon Groudon, the Continent Pokémon, and the dragon-flying-type Pokemon Rayquaza, the Sky High Pokémon.
According to Hoenn mythology, in the beginning, the oceans and the earth are said to have battled constantly for dominance. At this time, the world overflowed with natural energy, and the forces of nature themselves were represented by two monstrous deities. Early humans came to call the beast of the waters Primal Kyogre, and the beast of the land Primal Groudon, with them respectively being the entities responsible for the formation of the oceans and land comprising the Hoenn region. These titans clashed frequently and caused mass devastation as they did so, with the ocean swelling and drowning everything, while oppressive heat and light baked and incinerated everything in sight.
The two have clashed since the beginning of their incredibly long lives, but with every clash, the destruction becomes increasingly worse, and the life of the world is swallowed again and again by their rage.
Several thousand years ago, however, when human civilization first began to flourish in the Hoenn region, the two met once again, and their fight brought such devastation to the world that the humans of the region cried out for help, asking for someone to help not only end the fight, but to end the shower of meteoroids that had descended upon the world at the same time. Their pleas were answered by the legendary dragon of the sky, Rayquaza, who descended from the clouds above and calmed the two raging beasts, forcing them to sleep. 1,000 years of peace followed, but again, disaster awoke when a large meteoroid fell to the earth and punctured it, forming the massive crater now known as the Pseutopolis crater. This event released a massive upwelling of natural energy that awakened Primal Kyogre and Primal Groudon, leading them to the fiercest fight they had ever had with each other.
For 20 days and 20 nights they raged, and eventually the balance of power was disrupted, forcing the natural energy of the world to spiral out of control.
The descendants of the people who called upon Rayquaza before did so once more, this time wishing with all of their might in the presence of the fallen meteoroid. Suddenly, the rainbow rocks shined brightly, and Rayquaza descended from the clouds as if attracted by the object. This object would later be known as a keystone, and it proved to be vital because, in its presence, Rayquaza shined a brilliant green light, and when the light died down, the people saw a Rayquaza unlike any other, a beast we know as Mega Rayquaza. The creature descended to the ground and, using the golden filaments hanging from its body, drained the primal energy from the bodies of Kyogre and Groudon and returned them to the earth from whence they came. The two beasts fell into a deep sleep, and Rayquaza returned to normal, leaving to the sky once again.
The people of the Hoenn region built the Sky Pillar in reverence for their savior and embedded the massive keystone in it, hoping that one day they would be able to see their savior again.
1,000 years of peace followed this event as well, but during this time, the people of the Hoenn region predicted that an even larger meteoroid would hit the Earth again, this time large enough to break the world forever. They thus created the red and blue orbs to contain and control the powers of Kyogre and Groudon, the later Jade Orb being made as a wholly symbolic sign of worship for Rayquaza, and entrusted their legend to those of their descendants, the Draconic people, leaving murals in the Sky Pillar to tell their tale to future generations. In addition, some of them turned their sights to the Johto region and constructed the embedded tower as a symbol of the power held by these three giant entities, and it is said that those who demonstrate their worthiness may even encounter these creatures there, though the reason why is still uncertain. Kyogre vaguely resembles a whale or orca of some sort, possessing a vast blue body form with a pair of large flippers on its front end that end in a series of 4 broad white digits, its back half having a small tail and a pair of twin trailing tail flaps on each side, while its head has a curved ovoid shape with yellow eyes with black sclera, a white sectioned underbelly, and a mouth filled with sharp teeth usually hidden from view. The lower edge of its mouth and the twin barbs on its underside, as well as parts of its upper body and dorsal fins, are covered in a series of red lines that glow when in the presence of its counterpart, Groudon, acting as conduits through which its power flows through the rest of its body. While in its primal Kyogre state, this beast is not only much larger, but the tail flaps on its back end have split into 4 on each side, and its body is now illuminated with circular and linear marks across its frame that glow with a yellowish-white energy, the creature's full unbridled power allowed to flow freely through its form. Groudon has a more humanoid-like posture to its form, possessing a thick brick-red outer hide with deep patterned grooves across its form that glow when in the presence of its counterpart Kyogre, standing on 2 sturdy legs with 3 white claws each, while its upper arms have 3 claws and a thumb claw each. It further has a series of spikes on the side of its neck, abdomen, and tail, the latter having a series of 4 bladed extensions at the end, while its reddish-gray underbelly and lower jaw help to frame its skull, which has a pair of red extensions that point downward, a mouth filled with sharp white teeth, a fringed head crest of a sort, and a pair of yellow eyes. While in its primal Groudon state, this beast is also not only quite a bit larger, but the bladed extensions at the end of its tail spread outwards a bit, as the white spikes on its frame turn a deep black color and become noticeably longer, the channels in its hide and face melting a bit and filling with glowing yellow magma-like fluid. Rayquaza has a long green serpentine body with a series of 3 red-rimmed dual fringes on segments on its body, leading up to a pair of small, thin arms with 3 sharp white claws each on one end and a red-rimmed 4-part tail at the other. Its body has a series of black segmented joints along its form with golden patterned markings throughout its body and the top of its head, which itself has a pair of hide extensions that spread outward in a cross formation at the base of its skull, the pair on top being larger than those below the skull, with a pair of eye ridges, a red-rimmed mouth with small sharp teeth, and a pair of yellow eyes with black sclera. Furthermore, Rayquaza has access to a Mega Evolved state, and in this state, it grows immensely in size and its appearance changes drastically, revealing a shining form that is much more fluid in its motions and even shines a brilliant metallic green as a result of the development of a metallic coating over parts of its scales from extruded meteoritic material. Parts of its body have sections of black hide with yellowish-orange orbs where its Mega Evolution energy is stored, as its red fringes turn orange with black pattern markings on its face, red eyes, and a large pincher-like crest that extends forwards from the center of its jawline, while golden tassels hang from its body and shine brilliantly in the dark, which, as described in legend, allow Mega Rayquaza to harness and drain the natural power of others in order to fuel its own energy, or release that energy back into the world, just as it did to strip the primal powers from Kyogre and Groudon.
While it might not have the exact power it once had in very ancient times, Kyogre is still a beast unlike any other, whose powers perfectly mimic that associated with the waters of the ocean.
This beast has the power to harness the raw energy of nature itself to create massive downpours, and can do so with such might that it effectively does not have to do anything to do so. It is not entirely certain how it is able to do so, but it is hypothesized that it likely does the same as humans with cloud seeding, releasing a complex combination of chemicals from its skin into the air that induce precipitation to form. Regardless, its mere presence in the world is enough to create massive storms wherever it chooses to roam when near the surface of the water, where its power can reach the atmosphere above, hence it having access to drizzle as its only possible ability in this state. While the ability is not unique to Kyogre, it can use it more effectively than any other wild Pokemon, and is backed up by incredibly powerful special abilities, utilizing devastating attacks like Water Spout and Sheer Cold to destroy anything that gets in its way. Its control over the oceans is so great that it can even utilize the waters around it to attack with a devastating move completely unique to it. This move, the Origin Pulse Attack, involves Kyogre summoning forth balls of compressed water that shine a bright blue color before being blasted into the opposition as ballistic projectiles. The attack may be fairly inaccurate as a result of the time needed to prepare the attack, but it is just as powerful as a Hydro Pump attack and is capable of attacking multiple opponents at the same time, making it a devastating move to use in the presence of multiple opponents. Despite all of this power, Kyogre is usually a fairly benign creature that swims through the oceans rapidly in peace, even in the face of humans. It is only when in the presence of Groudon that it becomes a violent monster, as it cannot stand Groudon's presence and will attack anything that it even remotely associates with its existence, human and Pokemon alike. Still, its power is nonetheless immense to behold, especially if one looks at its base stats, as all of Kyogre's base stats are at or above average for a fully evolved Water-type Pokemon, further possessing the highest base special attack stat tied with Palkia, and base special defense stat tied with Mantine out of all Water-type Pokemon, rendering it a terrifying force of the seas that all should fear.
On its own, Kyogre is an incredibly powerful creature, but as spoken of in legend, there was in fact a time when it was much, much more powerful. A time when there was so much natural energy available to the beast that was overwhelmed and took on a devastating form whose powers are still beyond anything we can fathom today.
This form is referred to as Primal Kyogre, and is the true form of this creature as it was at the beginning of its life and up to about 1,000 years ago. Kyogre is normally unable to access this full power as a result of Mega Rayquaza forcefully removing it, but ironically enough, the blue orb that was created to quell the power of Groudon is also the key to restoring Kyogre's power. The blue orb is infused with a part of the massive keystone that enabled Rayquaza to Omega Evolve, though it is noted that it possesses the attributes of both Keystones and Megastones and is thus self-activating, and as a result can act as a reservoir of natural energy. While it was intentionally designed in this fashion as a way of heavily restricting the power of Groudon, it conversely energizes Kyogre and enables it to absorb energy straight from nature to power itself up and restore its true form, a process called primal reversion. The effects are very similar to Mega Evolution, but are classified as something different as the ultimate source of activation are the powers of the natural world and not humans. As long as Kyogre is holding the blue orb, it can freely transform from its current state into its true form of Primal Kyogre and will gain a tremendous boost in power as a result. For one thing, in terms of stats, this transformation has the effect of moderately increasing Kyogre's base special defense stat, considerably increasing its base special attack stat, and astronomically increasing its base attack stat. In turn, it gains the highest base special attack and special defense stats and base stat total out of all water-type Pokémon. In the process, its Drizzle ability is upgraded to the Cataclysmic Primordial Sea ability as its primal energy ramps up its cloud seeding capabilities enough for its presence to make sea levels rise noticeably, which causes heavy rain to fall that has all the effects of regular rain but effectively snuffs out all fire-type moves, making them completely unusable, and prevents any other Pokémon from manually changing the weather as long as Primal Kyogre is present. Thankfully, this raw power is unlikely to be seen by most people in person, but the sheer might Primal Kyogre possesses more than demonstrates why this creature was once and is still feared as the bringer of a drowned apocalypse if its power went out of control ever again.
As with its counterpart Kyogre, although it may not have the exact power it once had, Groudon is still a beast unlike any other, whose powers perfectly mimic that associated with the tectonic forces of the Earth.
Groudon has the power to harness the raw energy of nature itself to create intense sunlight, and can do so with such might that it effectively does not have to do anything to do so. It is not entirely certain how it is able to do so, of course, but it is hypothesized that it likely is able to do so by releasing a huge burst of high-pressure gas from its body to generate an artificial heat dome to trap heat in a given location. Regardless, its mere presence in the world is enough to magnify the heat of the sun wherever it chooses to roam when near the surface of the ground, where its power can reach the atmosphere above. This ability, Drought, is not unique to Groudon, but it can use it more effectively than any other wild Pokémon, and is backed up by incredibly powerful special abilities, utilizing devastating attacks like Earthquake and Solar Beam to destroy anything that gets in its way. Its control over the land is so great that it can even utilize the earth around it to attack with a devastating move completely unique to it. This move, the Precipice Blades attack, involves Groudon summoning forth massive, jagged spires of rock and crystal from deep inside the earth to impale opponents from below in a sweeping wave of devastation. This attack may be fairly inaccurate as a result of the time needed to prepare the attack, but it is among the most powerful ground-type attacks and is capable of attacking multiple opponents at the same time, making it a devastating move to use in the presence of multiple opponents. Unlike Kyogre, Groudon is a serious menace to all forms of life and despises it, for it was created by the might of Kyogre and not Groudon originally. As a result, this beast rarely ever shows itself to the world, keeping itself isolated deep in the crust where it can exist in peace away from the brethren of its hated rival. Much as with its hated rival though, Groudon's power is nonetheless immense to behold, especially if one looks at its base stats, as all of Groudon's base stats are above average for a fully evolved ground-type Pokémon, further possessing the highest base attack stat and base stat total out of all ground-type Pokémon, and rendering it a terrifying force of the land that all should fear.
Furthermore, just as with Kyogre, while Groudon is an incredibly powerful creature on its own, as spoken of in legend, there was in fact a time where it too was much more powerful. A time where there was so much natural energy available to the beast that it was overwhelmed and took on a devastating form whose powers are again still beyond anything we can even fathom today.
This form is referred to as Primal Groudon, and is the true form of this creature as it was at the beginning of its life and up to about 1,000 years ago. Groudon is normally unable to access this full power as a result of Mega Rayquaza forcefully removing it, but ironically enough, as with Kyogre, the red orb that was created to quell the powers of Kyogre is also the key to restoring Groudon's power. The red orb is infused with a part of the massive keystone that enabled Rayquaza to Mega Evolve, and again, as a result, it can act as a reservoir of natural energy. While it was intentionally designed in this fashion, as way of heavily restricting the power of Kyogre, it conversely energizes Groudon and enables it to absorb energy straight from nature to power itself up and restore its true form through primal reversion. As long as Groudon is holding the red orb, it can freely transform from its current state into its true form of Primal Groudon and will gain a tremendous boost in power as a result. For one thing, the intense heat of its primal form effectively causes some of Primal Groudon's outer skin and muscle tissue to melt into a magma-like substance that superheats its body so much that it amplifies its fire-type moves, in turn making it best classified as a ground fire-type Pokémon. In terms of stats, this transformation has the effect of moderately increasing Groudon's base defense stat, considerably increasing its base attack stat, and astronomically increasing its base special attack stat. In turn, it gains the highest base attack and special attack stats and base stat total out of all ground-type Pokémon, and the highest base attack, defense, and special attack stats, the latter most tied with Reshiram, and base stat total out of all fire-type Pokémon. In the process, its Drought ability is upgraded to the Cataclysmic Desolate Land ability, as its primal power increases the gas emitted from its body to intensify the heat dome it naturally generates, enough to cause magma to spontaneously erupt from the ground beneath it to form new land, which in turn also causes harsh sunlight to shine on the battlefield that has all the effects of regular intense sunlight, but effectively evaporates all water-type moves, making them completely unusable, and preventing any other Pokémon from manually changing the weather as long as Primal Groudon is present. Thankfully, as with Primal Kyogre, this raw power is unlikely to be seen by most people in person, but the sheer might Primal Groudon possesses more than demonstrates why this creature was once and is still feared as the bringer of a baked apocalypse if its power went out of control ever again.
As with both Kyogre and Groudon, there is little concretely known about Rayquaza in terms of its anatomy, but what truly sets it apart from both of these monsters is that there is also no clear indication of when and where it was born.
Both Kyogre and Groudon are assumed to have originated either in the water or on the land, respectively, but as the representative of the sky, even a symbolic connection to Rayquaza's birth cannot be accurately tracked. The only explanation for why this creature is in no way connected to either terrain is because it may have been born long before either Kyogre or Groudon. In fact, scale samples from the beast have effectively proven that it is hundreds of millions of years old, its lifespan thus stretching through a tremendous length of the paleontological record. Even then, however, the sheer energy that radiates from its scales disrupts radiocarbon dating and suggests that the beast could be even older than what is estimated. Regardless, Rayquaza is an elusive beast that almost never descends from the sky, often being seen as nothing more than a meteor shooting across the sky, mainly because it doesn't have to. This monster lives in the ozone layer far above the rest of the world, and feeds on a combination of ozone and meteoritic material that comes to the planet for energy. How it is able to convert such resources into energy is not well understood, but it nonetheless makes its body an amazing dynamo that can store massive amounts of energy for long periods of time without ever aging, supporting the scientific claim that it is indeed one of the oldest natural organisms to have been born on Earth. In stark contrast to Kyogre and Groudon, Rayquaza is built specifically for combat and is able to wield physical and special attacks so well that few can withstand its blows, and beyond that, as it turns out, Rayquaza, analogous to how the beasts of the water and earth can control aspects of their territory, is able to generate powerful vacuums in its surroundings that blast away weather conditions that are in place and prevent them from being re-established. This signature ability, known as the Airlock ability, essentially disperses all weather and prevents any Pokémon from changing it through any direct methods, in turn granting it a severe advantage over both Kyogre and Groudon in battle. As already hinted at regarding its stats, Rayquaza is also a powerhouse of offensive might, and while its defensive capabilities might not be as great as they could be, its base defense and special defense stats being below average for a fully evolved Dragon-type Pokémon, though not a flying type, all of its other base stats are above average for a fully evolved dragon and flying type Pokemon, with the highest base attack and special attack stats out of all flying type Pokemon, and the highest base stat total out of all flying type Pokemon, tied with Lugia, Ho-Oh, and Yveltal. Truly, this magnificent beast is a devastating sight to behold, and more than capable of decimating those that dare to enter its territory.
What truly makes Rayquaza a beast of terrifying power and scientific interest, though, is the fact that it is one of only a select number of Pokemon capable of undergoing Mega Evolution, but requires no Mega Stone to do so.
As a consequence of its distinct anatomy, the energy that normally would be needed from a Mega Stone to undergo the process is replicated internally in this beast as a result of its diet on meteoroids and its Mikado organ, which processes this material in order to provide the energy needed for Mega Evolution. This means that technically, the energy responsible for Mega Evolution is completely different in the case of Rayquaza, but is considered a Mega Evolution nonetheless because it was not triggered until the people of the Hoenn region called on its power on a giant alien keystone. As such, Rayquaza is not truly considered to be the source of all Mega Evolution, but it is still the only Pokemon capable of undergoing it with only a fervent wish from someone it trusts. As legend goes, in the act of Mega Evolving for the first time, Rayquaza acquired a new move that it otherwise did not have access to before, a move passed down in legend as the Dragon Ascent attack, a terrifying tackle delivered while coated in pure Mega Evolution-based energy that deals incredible damage to anything it touches, but also lowers the user's defense and special defense stats after the initial blow. As long as Rayquaza has this move and is in the company of a human that it trusts, it will be able to Mega Evolve into Mega Rayquaza on its own will. As Mega Rayquaza, this monster undergoes a significant stat boost just as with every other Mega Evolution. In particular, its base defense and special defense stats are slightly increased, its base speed stat is moderately increased, and its base attack and special attack stats are considerably increased. In turn, it gains the highest base attack and special attack stats out of all flying and dragon type Pokemon, and the highest base stat total out of all Pokemon in general, tied with either of Mewtwo's Mega Evolved forms. In addition, Rayquaza's airlock ability is overridden as its ability to control the air is magnified to catastrophic levels, granting it instead the terrifying Delta Stream ability. This ability creates an entirely new type of weather condition called Strong Winds, in which the biological attributes it uses to create vacuums in the air instead mangles and shears the air enough to generate terribly strong air currents that sweep across and through the battlefield as if one is on the verge of entering a tornado. This ability not only overrides the effects of all other weather conditions and prevents the weather from being changed as long as it is present, but on the upside, it naturally entombs flying-type Pokemon in a shell of turbulent winds that disrupts physical and special attacks designed to take down flying types, reducing their damage to the point of completely negating their super effective status against flying-type Pokemon. Combined with its defense-shattering offensive stats and incredible combat abilities, this ability makes Mega Rayquaza a friend to flying types and a monster to all others, proving that it is to be revered as a savior both for its will to keep the harmony of nature and the incredible power it can wield with little preparation. Although Kyogre and Groudon may not be observed very often in the wild, they have come to public importance in recent times thanks to the events of the Magma and Aqua incident a few decades ago. Teams Magma and Aqua were a group of environmentalists looking to reset the damage humans had done to the environment of the world, specifically to the land of the world in the hopes of creating new terrestrial habitats for the Pokemon of the world, and the waters of the world in the hopes of doing the same with oceanic habitats, respectively. The plans of the respective leaders, Maxie and Archie, ultimately led the organizations to search for and awaken the might of Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre, but they did so for some time before realizing that their predicted effects on the global climate were a great underestimation of what these beasts were actually capable of. As such, the two managed to eventually awaken the mighty beasts with the red and blue orbs, but their power sent the world spiraling out of control as it and the effects brought on by these beasts started to send the planet's climate into an apocalyptic spin. Thankfully, a young trainer was able to beat both organizations and use the power of the orbs to calm the raging beasts, who then reverted to their normal states and entered isolated states in the open world once again.
Since then, the two have been spotted only a few times, but have made their presence known on occasion, with Kyogre in particular assisting in some cases, such as defeating the Pirate Phantom during the Samaya incident in the more recent past.
Furthermore, during the Millennium Comet incident years ago, a scientist who formerly worked for Team Magma tried to create a Groudon clone using a fossilized section of its hide and the power of another legendary Pokemon, Jirachi. Unfortunately, the experiment did not go as expected, and instead of a true Groudon being created, a demonic mockery was formed. This manifestation of pure evil attempted to suck the energy out of every living thing in its path, and there seemed to be nothing capable of stopping it. However, thanks to the heroic actions of a young trainer, the Jirachi involved was given enough time to power up and launch its Doom Desire attack, destroying the fake Pokemon completely and restoring peace once more.
In addition, Rayquaza was directly involved in two notable incidents just on its own. The first being the Delta incident, connected to the aftermath of the Magma and Aqua incident, and is first named by AZ in observing the actions of Mega Rayquaza from afar over 1,000 years ago.
As part of the Litlionid meteor shower, a meteoroid approximately 6 miles in diameter was observed to approach the Earth and suddenly change direction. So while it had been expected to pass by us safely, it now was on a one-way course for a direct impact with the planet. Such an event would have been a complete catastrophe, as an object that size would have been enough to wipe out a tremendous chunk of the human race and the other life forms surrounding us. Scientists working at the Moss Deep Space Center and the Devon Corporation planned on using a rocket powered by infinity energy, a staple of Devon Corporation technology, and the same energy used by AZ to power the Reaper of Embrodos thousands of years ago, to create a wormhole that would teleport the rock to some other place in the universe. However, they were scolded in turn by Zinnia, the last lore keeper of the Tales of the Draconic People.
She knew that the only way to stop this disaster was to once again call upon Rayquaza, and to that, she stole the keystones of numerous people, including the leaders of Teams Aqua and Magma, and destroyed the communication devices that would have made operating the proposed rocket a possibility in space.
Followed by a young trainer caught up in the entire mess, she ascended to the top of the Sky Pillar and summoned Rayquaza, only to find out that the power it once held had been lost from it over time. It would have been the end for all, had it not been for the meteorite that the young trainer had received after defeating Teams Magma and Aqua at Mount Chimney, which shined brilliantly in Rayquaza's presence. Sensing its power, Rayquaza took the rock and devoured it, providing it enough energy to Mega Evolve once again. After the young trainer defeated Rayquaza in battle to earn its trust, it Mega Evolved and, with the new Herald of the Draconid People on its back, traveled into space and destroyed the offending meteoroid with its Dragon Ascent attack. In the aftermath, the trainer realized why the meteoroid had changed paths when, in the wreckage of the rock, an alien life form attacked. Deoxys! The enraged creature, which was probably trying to direct its rocky capsule to a planet where it can grow and thrive, attacked the trainer and Mega Rayquaza out of anger, but was ultimately defeated. It plummeted to the Earth, and it is not certain if it survived the fall or not. With the job done, the trainer returned to the Earth, and Rayquaza returned to the ozone layer, where it remained for some time. The second incident revolving Rayquaza occurred not too long after the Delta incident, though it was initially triggered by a pair of Deoxys crash landing on Earth 4 years prior. In the process of entering the planet's atmosphere, the rock containing the creatures nearly hit Rayquaza as the rock passed through its territory, which Rayquaza did not take lightly, feeling like its territory had been violated and in turn pursuing the rock down to the planet's surface. Only one of the Deoxys had been mutated and transformed into its now recognized state as a result of the impact. The other one still lay dormant. Rayquaza viciously attacked the mutated Deoxys and, although taking considerable damage from the Deoxys' Psycho Boost attack, it eventually obliterated it with its Hyper Beam. 4 years later, mere months after the Delta incident, the once vaporized Deoxys finished regenerating itself and began looking for its dormant companion, resulting in what would become known as the La Ruse City incident. Rayquaza, detecting the presence of the Deoxys, flew back down to the planet's surface to finish what it had started. By the time it had reached La Ruse City, however, the Deoxys had already turned the mechanized city into a jumbled mess with its electromagnetic powers. Hoping to calm Rayquaza, a few stragglers within the city managed to energize the dormant crystal containing the Deoxys' lost friend, awakening it and causing it to mutate. The two Deoxys managed to hold off Rayquaza together, but the mechanized city soon proved to be the real threat as it went into a panic mode and began to attack and capture everything in sight, including Rayquaza itself. Thanks to the heroic actions of a young trainer, however, the mechanized city was completely shut down, rescuing Rayquaza from a grisly fate. Recognizing that the Deoxys were not a threat to its territory, Rayquaza returned to the ozone layer and the Deoxys moved on to an unknown location.
I'm kind of excited that I get to have a part in talking about these grand creatures. And boy, do they more than take your breath away, especially if you're ever in the fortune of meeting them in person. No matter which way you slice it, these beasts are terrifying figures, whose control over the elements make them among the most dangerous Pokémon that any one person could ever encounter. Kyogre, the ruler of the seas, whose mere presence can cause rain to fall in whatever part of the world it is in. It is a gentle giant that enjoys being left alone to live within the oceans of the world. But if angered, the seas will swell, and it will deliver upon foolish offenders a terrible judgment that diving gear isn't going to be enough to save you from. Groudon, on the other hand, is a monster that rules over the land and all that runs beneath it. A living representation of the hot and rocky form of the planet's continents and crust, whose presence can intensify sunlight with ease. It is a brutal monster that stays away from others for a reason, and if disturbed, will not think twice about unleashing a terrible wrath upon those that seek it out. And, of course, Rayquaza, a creature that can easily instill both fear and tremendous resolve in all that confront it, ready to fight those they think have a chance against it. Though its opinion of humans is not fully certain, even to me, it does seem to feel that all that live on its home planet must be protected from the destruction that Kyogre and Groudon tend to bring with them, if only for the sake of keeping its territory from being severely disturbed. Add to all of this the powers of Primal Reversion and Mega Evolution, and in the end, you end up with a trio of powerful beasts whose devastating effects on the world around them are only truly matched by the spite that otherwise unites their existence and treatment towards each other.
Truly revered in legend for the incredible power they possess, it cannot be argued that the super ancient members of the legendary Weather Trio are true titans whose power can swing the world from one type of apocalypse to the other, or, in the case of Rayquaza, help to keep it all in balance. It is very unlikely that many trainers will ever have to worry about confronting any of these creatures themselves, but for the few that find themselves in such a situation, only preparation for the worst will give you an edge in said confrontation.
Just do yourself a favor and make sure that, if you want to make a name for yourself and you feel the urge to seek these creatures out, you steady yourself for everything they can throw at you. The might of the sea, earth, and sky reigns supreme among them, and they'll gladly use all of the above to devastate you and remind you how much of a manifestation they are of both the beauty and imposing might of the natural world.
Thank you all for watching this video. It is always a pleasure to help teach others about the world of Pokemon and the many facets of it that exist in both the world we call home and the world they call home. If you'd like, please leave a comment and subscribe and ring the bell to this channel to get regular updates on content and anything else that might be going on. You can find me and my written work on DeviantArt under the name Utitus and be informed of information and content uploads on my Twitter page and my Patreon page. Donations are always welcome. Always remember, the world of Pokemon is a vast and varied place, and there's no telling what secrets might be hiding just around the corner. So keep watch, stay vigilant, and always prepare for the unexpected. Until next time, have a wonderful rest of the day.